The military career fair at Fort Benning was packed with eager young recruits, all fresh-faced and hungry to prove themselves. They lined up in perfect formation for the traditional inspection ceremony, where a visiting three-star general would review the troops and select outstanding candidates for advanced training programs. Among the sea of 18 and 19-year-olds stood a man who clearly didn't belong. He was at least 70, with silver hair, deep lines carved into his face, and a slight tremor in his hands. His uniform looked old, worn at the edges, but immaculately pressed. Before we continue this incredible story, I want to ask you something. Are you watching this alone right now, or is someone sitting next to you? Drop a comment and let me know. I read every single one, and I love knowing who's part of this journey. Now, let's see what happened that changed everything in an instant. The recruit standing next to the old man, a cocky kid named Brandon from Texas, nudged his buddy and whispered loud enough for others to hear. Did they let someone's grandpa get in line by mistake? Old dude probably thinks this is the VA hospital. Laughter rippled through the formation, barely contained snickers from young men who thought they knew what a soldier looked like. Another recruit chimed in. Maybe he's confused. Should we help him find the senior center? More laughter. The old man stood perfectly still, eyes forward, his weathered hands at his sides, showing no reaction to their mockery. A drill sergeant approached, ready to remove what he assumed was a confused elderly visitor, but stopped when he saw the old man's posture. Something about the way he stood, the precise angle of his shoulders, the controlled breathing, made the sergeant pause. "Sir, are you in the right place?" The old man's voice came out steady and quiet. "Yes, Sergeant. I'm exactly where I need to be." The sergeant studied him for a moment, noted the worn patches on his uniform, then stepped back, uncertain but willing to let this play out. The formation snapped to attention as General Marcus Steele approached, his ribbons gleaming in the afternoon sun, his reputation preceding him as one of the hardest commanders in the Army. He began his inspection at the far end of the line, moving methodically, occasionally stopping to question a recruit or examine their uniform. Brandon straightened, hoping to impress, dreaming of that advanced training slot that could launch his career. The general moved closer, past dozens of young faces, all eager and nervous. Then he reached the old man. The general stopped, his eyes dropping to the faded patch on the veteran's right shoulder. His entire body went rigid. The patch showed a skull with wings, nearly worn away by time and wear, but unmistakable to those who knew. Below it, barely visible, were the words that made strong men go silent. The general's face transformed from stern professionalism to something else entirely, something between shock and reverence. "Sergeant Major Hayes," he whispered. "Daniel Hayes? The angel of Hugh City?" The old man's eyes flickered, just slightly. "Just Don now, General. Been a long time since anyone called me that," but the general wasn't having it. He did something that made every recruit's jaw drop. He stepped back and saluted. A three-star general saluting an old man in a worn uniform. The entire parade ground fell into stunned silence. And if this moment just gave you chills, hit that like button right now, because what comes next will blow your mind. "Ladies and gentlemen," the general's voice boomed across the field, "you have the extraordinary privilege of standing next to a living legend. This is Sergeant Major Daniel Hayes, recipient of the Medal of Honor, 2 Distinguished Service Crosses, and 4 Silver Stars. In 1968, during the Battle of Hugh City, his platoon was pinned down by enemy fire. Outnumbered 10-1, Sergeant Major Hayes held a position alone for 7 hours while his wounded men were evacuated. He was shot 3 times, took shrapnel from 2 grenades, and when they finally overran his position, he engaged in hand-to-hand combat until reinforcements arrived. Brandon's face drained of color. The general continued, his voice carrying the weight of history. He saved 43 men that day. 43 soldiers who went home to their families because one man refused to retreat. After Vietnam, he trained Special Operations Forces for 2 decades. Half the elite warriors in our military today were shaped by his teaching. He retired 30 years ago, and we thought we'd lost track of him. The general turned back to Daniel. "Sir, why are you here today?" Daniel's voice was quiet but carried across the silent field. "My grandson is in this formation. He enlisted last month. I came to watch him take his oath, to stand beside him for his first inspection. I wanted him to know that his family has always served. The general's expression softened. Which one is your grandson? A young man 3 positions down, tears streaming down his face, raised his hand slightly. Here, sir. Private Michael Hayes. He looked at his grandfather with a mix of pride and shame, having heard the others mock him. The general walked to Michael. Private, do you know what an honor it is to carry that name? Your grandfather is the reason men like me serve. He's the standard we measure ourselves against. He turned back to the formation. Let me tell you what just happened here. Some of you laughed at this man. You saw his age, his trembling hands, his old uniform, and you judged him. You thought you knew what strength looked like because you're young and fit, but real strength isn't about youth. It's about what you do when everything is against you, when quitting makes sense, when staying costs everything. Brandon stepped forward, his voice breaking. Sir, I apologize. I was wrong. I was disrespectful to a hero, and I have no excuse. Daniel turned to him, and his lined face showed kindness where anger would have been justified. Son, you didn't know? But let this be your lesson. Never assume you're better than someone because they're older. These hands shake now because they held positions under fire for hours. These legs are slow because they carried wounded men through rice paddies. This uniform is worn because it's been through hell and back. You judge people by their actions, not their appearance. The general made an announcement that shocked everyone. Sergeant Major Hayes, I'm reinstating your invitation to our advanced leadership seminar. We'd be honored if you'd share your experience with our next generation of warriors. Will you accept? Daniel looked at his grandson, saw the pride shining through the tears, and nodded. I'll do it, but only if Michael can attend too. Let him see what real leadership training looks like. For the next 2 hours, Daniel stood on that field and taught those recruits lessons they'd never forget. He spoke about fear, about brotherhood, about the weight of command and the cost of survival. He showed them his scars, each one a story, each one a lesson. He told them about the nights he couldn't sleep, about the faces he still saw, about the responsibility of bringing men home. Brandon sat closest, taking notes, his earlier arrogance replaced by genuine humility and hunger to learn. As the sun began to set, Michael approached his grandfather. Grandpa, why didn't you ever tell me about all this? About what you did. Daniel put his hand on his grandson's shoulder. Because it's not about what I did. It's about what you'll do. Every generation has to prove themselves, has to face their own trials. I came today not to show off my past, but to remind you that the Hayes family has never backed down, never quit, never left a brother behind. That's your legacy now. Don't carry my medals. Earn your own. The general watched this exchange and said to his aide, Make sure every recruit here today gets a copy of Sergeant Major Hayes's full record. They need to understand what they just witnessed. They need to know that legends don't announce themselves. They stand quietly in line, waiting for their grandson to take his oath, carrying their history with humility. As Daniel walked away, every recruit on that field stood and saluted, holding it until the old warrior disappeared from view. Brandon would tell this story for the rest of his career, and he'd never judge by appearances again. This story reminds us that true heroes walk among us without fanfare, carrying their sacrifices quietly, earning respect through actions, not words. If this moved you deeply, if you believe in honoring those who gave everything, subscribe to this channel right now and hit that notification bell. Share this story with someone who needs to understand what real strength looks like. Comment below and tell me what lesson you took from Sergeant Major Hayes. Let's build a community that never forgets to respect our elders and learn from their wisdom. Thank you for watching, and remember, legends don't need to announce themselves because their actions speak louder than any words ever could.